Welcome to the Tomosi Business Training Series. The basis of these sessions is to support the Tomosi Group staff and management to raise their capabilities and performance. The series is also a platform to share our experience with young entrepreneurs, making an effort to build their startups in Uganda and across Africa.
So the tool to execute this, in my opinion, comes from if each one of us focused on being in a cluster of goods or services that will promote or fall in any of these things. Let me demonstrate by example. Because I'm involved in production of milk and starting production for beef, there are particular things I'm learning about clustering. Because when you have a business in a particular sector, that cluster can learn from itself how to grow. So let's make an assumption. It's not an assumption, this is reality. This picture shows you the construction of a cold room. A cold room allows us to put yogurt or cheese or beef to stay fresh for some time. For you to produce this cold room, you hire someone who puts these materials together, or you do it yourself. But this cold room has various, let me assume that what we're trying to build is a cold room. Use a cold room as what we're trying to produce is beans. There are various contents that go into these beans or into this cold room. One of the first ones is you require this piping. So I want you to assume you have an enterprise that does piping work. These are pipes, and these little round white things you see are what these pipes go through in order to run them through these edges and inside to generate cold air. Now, so the person constructing this requires a cluster. Among those clusters, there's a company that produces these pipes. But you can produce these pipes without knowledge or awareness of producing these little round things through which the pipes pass. So product 1, product 2 is pipes, still in the same cluster company, just simply based on pipes, or based on these little round, they look like marble, through which air and freezing goes to help chill a product. But for you to set this up very well, you also need nuts and bolts. This is an independent company in the cluster of companies that are producing for a cold room. This image, I took it off my phone, so it's not pretty clear, but you can see a sack of nails and various things that are made out of iron and steel, if I can use that term, to ensure that when you are building this structure, which I showed you at the beginning, these nuts, nails, bolts are produced independently to support the cold. But inside the cold room, you need these brightly orange or pink color. They look like wood, but inside there is foam. And that foam, because I think wood takes more time to cool down, you need foam in order for those wires I showed you to generate more. These are produced independently in the cluster by a company. An independent company simply supplying the production of cold rooms. Inside there, you have gas cylinders, because you need to run gas in the cold room to ensure that you keep it at a particular temperature that is preset. This is an independent company. This picture came from a company from Kenya that simply supplies these to the cold room. So this is like company number what? Let me see where we started from. You are trying to produce this. So these foam boards is company number 1 in the production of cold room material. This is company number 2 and 3 because there are 2 products on this. This is company number 4 that produces these items that channel air into the cold room. Then you have simply custom-made gas cylinders that fit in that cold room to keep the temperature at a particular stage. And then you have these nuts and bolts. This is company number 5 or 6. It's company number 6. And then you have these trays. These are trays you put meat portions that you are taking into the cold room. This is aluminum perforated or trays that go into that big building I have shown you. They are produced independently by a company. So these are 7 different companies that fall under a cluster. So a cluster, maybe I used an example that is a little bit foreign to people who are not into chilling. Let me talk about simply, very quickly, coffee. In a district called Sironko, there is a sub-county called Busedan. Busedan produces very good Arabica. Arabica AA is internationally recognized good coffee from Uganda. The people who produce this, the farmers, must transport this to Mbale for drying, for cleaning. So you have the grower, who is a farmer in Busedan, but he or she must transport this to Mbale. In Mbale there is sorting, there is drying, and then there is a roaster. This roaster may be making I don't know, 10 kilograms a day for people who want to drink coffee in Mbale. And this roasted coffee is probably gathered in a large container and delivered to the market, say in Tanzania or in Sudan, where they drink a lot of coffee. Now, so which I want to take to the market called Sudan, but I came from a cluster number 1 is the grower, cluster number 2 is the transporter. So imagine you have a Fuso, 7-ton Fuso, which transports this coffee from Busedan at the right temperature. You need to know that there are a number of transporters in that sector who can go in a circle and raise money from a Myoga, raise money from microfinance support center, simply for transportation. It's a cluster that creates jobs and has business. Then there is a cluster that gathers in one location, sorts, dries, and repacks. There is a cluster on roasting, because Uganda consumes 250,000 bags of coffee. Yet we produce 7 million. We're still very small at coffee drinking, but it means that there is an increasing number of middle-class people who want good coffee. You can roast it in Mbale or even in Sironko and bring it into the various restaurants across the country. You are in a cluster. And then there is a cluster of shippers in a container, in a batch, that goes to the port of Antwerp or to Sudan. And that coffee, many more other things are done. At this roasting, if you take out a product for drinking, there are coffee baristas, a cluster on their own, who know how to make coffee to a particular standard, so that if you want to use whipped cream, you want to use milk, these are all restaurant clusters. And then finally, you end up to the consumer. It is the same cluster I went through with chilling. So my question to you is, these markets, these borders, we must think trade and export promotion, but it must tie into a tool called an enterprise, and that enterprise must fit in a particular cluster in order for us to make this unity that I started with 4 weeks ago very relevant at a family level, at an individual level. Now, in the enterprise development, I want you to focus, for example, on what we call peer learning instead of peer competition, because often when I buy a Fuso, the other one wants to buy a bigger one, and we are competing for the same farmer in Wusedan, and then our trucks now do not have enough material to transport. Why don't we learn from each other instead of competing against each other? And in the competition is good, but where you are competing for a dwindling resource or dwindling source of material, it doesn't make sense. Let me give you an example again in this area. Take a look at the Chinese companies that are doing roads across Africa. Go to your country on almost every road, north, west, east, central. We think that these Chinese are doing this because they have money. Yes, their country gives them money to execute jobs across the world. But my finding is a little bit different. You can have companies that have money from their country, but they don't work very well when they go to a foreign market. Why? Because those two companies are ferociously competing and not coordinated. The Chinese companies across the markets in the construction industry share information about opportunity. They share strength. If one does not have road equipment, they will get a job. They will go to the neighbor and pay him a lesser price and execute. Can we not learn from this so that there is peer-to-peer learning in trying to export beans, in trying to export beef and milk, instead of competing? So I encourage you, as young people in the enterprise development, to learn from each other. Now, of course, finally, this issue, I know you will come back to me, but you've said all these things, we don't have money. It is a very dangerous thing to set up a business only hoping that you will have government money or someone give you that cash. That business will struggle because it has false expectations. The best way to raise capital first is through savings. Small savings. Savings are like health. When you run 4 times a day and you eat the food meant for your body, and you do that for 20 years, and you are 70, you'll appear and have energy as if you are 50 years old. But if you missed a step and did the wrong things and you are 70, you will not recover the years you lost. In other words, every disciplined action in health is as good as a disciplined action in finance. Every 1,000 shillings saved looks small, looks nothing. But add 1,000 every day for 10 years, it's a different story. In other words, the first form of capitalization is yourself. I'm not saying these things in an isolated or as if I have no experience. I remember between 1996 and 1997, I really wanted to start a business in communication because I liked that area. And I registered a business in 1998. But the prior year, I had ensured that for every hour I worked in the night as a security guard, I would save a portion of that money, and I saved up to £500. This would be today's 1.5 million shillings, I think, thereabout, or 2 million. It is that money that bought us our first scanner in 1998-99, bought us, registered the company, bought us a printer, bought us a computer, and rented one room at Teacher's House on Bombo Road in 1998, and we started from there. Now, it's a different story today. We are in a number of sectors, we are still struggling, we lack capital, but the experience I have is start with the little that you have. The second one is the country 20 years ago did not have the same amount of money it has today for many businesses, especially micro businesses of young people that I have been describing there. I want you to assume that if you are 20 people, 4 people, 5 people, and you have a business in a cluster, and you form a circle, and you go to Microfinance Support Center, and they give you 30 million. It's a lot of money. There's a meeting I had sometime last year, and a young man told me that he can never borrow 30 million because it cannot satisfy his need. It's too small. I said, okay. Naye neziko okulima gali maji. In Luganda, that's what. Don't pass your eye through a particular amount of money simply because you haven't achieved what you want. Start with the opportunity of saving and add on to what is available. There are bottlenecks to getting there because the demand is high, but to those who are organized, they will get it, especially organized from an idea level. I want to stop here and thank you so much. I hope that the connectedness of Africa, now we bring it home to what it means on a personal level, on a commercial level, and on a wealth generating level, so that these borders, these groups that are ancient, who have been on this land, cease to be a source of conflict, but a force for good. We strengthen that which works for us by trade, by export, and we become participants, not simply people speaking. And that makes us wholesome and strong, and we take our place as Africans in the world. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
We would like to hear from you. Please email us at info@tapmedia.com and visit our website at www.tapmedia.com. You can also visit our offices located at Tomosi Business Park, Luzira, Port Bell Road, or call 0414 220 702. Thank you.